welcome to Title the Podcast.
With Joe.
And Joe!
Ano episode na tayo ngayon?
9.
Wow, episode 9.
And can you believe we're in the month of May?
Yes, which is in the States, it's currently AAPI Heritage Month. And in Canada, Asian Heritage Month.
So what is AAPI?
Hindi ko din alam. Joke lang. AAPI in the States, AAPI stands for Asian American Pacific Islander. And in Canada, it's just shortened as Asian Heritage Month.
So what is this ba? So, Asian Heritage Month, this is the time. For the whole month of May, it's time to reflect on our histories, cultures, and communities that has shaped, the country.
Yes. Basahin natin yung official na nakalagay sa website ng Government of Canada kasi nag-declare sila ng May as Asian Heritage Month, diba? So this is from their website dated for May 1st. So May is Asian Heritage Month in Canada, a time to reflect on and recognize the many contributions that people of Asian origin have made and continue to make in Canada. Asian Heritage Month has been celebrated since the 1990s. In May 2002, Governor General in May 2002, the Government of Canada signed an official declaration to announce May as Asian Heritage Month. And this one I really like, yung nakasulat, diba? Asian Heritage Month offers everyone in Canada an opportunity to learn more about the history of people of Asian origin in Canada and to celebrate their contributions to the growth and prosperity of our society.
Yes.
Yun. Bilang kami ay Pilipino, Asian din kami. So, month din namin.
So really, this is to celebrate people from all walks of life, from the Asian culture then, right?
Yes.
So,
and before we jump into that, we also want to recognize ulit. And if you tuned into our podcast last week, we talked about this briefly also. But we're still wanting to hold space and acknowledge the tragedy that happened in Vancouver a couple weeks ago by now during the Lapu-Lapu Day Festival 2025. So again, we'll have some of the links to some resources and also some GoFundMe links if you want to help out some of the families and friends of those that were affected by the event. So that's part of the reason why we wanted to highlight our heritage as Filipinos for this episode, not only because it's Asian Heritage Month, but also in light of what happened. We wanted to reflect on what does it mean for us ba to actually be Filipinos. Kasi parang diba, the event brought together Filipinos from all over the world. I was receiving messages from friends in Amsterdam, from the Philippines, from like Hong Kong, from Taiwan. And I was like, oh, being a Filipino means something. And so that's what we want to touch on today.
yes. But before we jump into the kwentuhan about that, let's highlight two figures who are part of Asian Canadian history na oftentimes not recognized.
Ay, gusto ko yan. Yan yung na-research namin. Kasi talaga guys, nagpe-prepare talaga kami. Di lang halata. Bilang Filipino kami, the first one we want to highlight is si Manong Benson Flores.
Yes. Also known as Ben Flores. So he was a fisherman and considered to be the first known Filipino immigrant to Canada, arriving in the late 1800s and settling in Bowen Island, BC. So officially, last year, ni-recognize siya.
Yes.
Last year is 2024.
Yes, kasi before that, it's been generally accepted, or parang it's more widely known that the first Asian groups of people that have come to Canada were Chinese and Japanese.
Yes.
There were mentions of some Filipinos, pero walang mga pangalan. Like if you look at some, ano titingnan natin kanina, parang Canadian Encyclopedia. The first recorded Asians in what is now Canada were a group of Chinese carpenters from Macau. Tapos, additionally, in the late 1700s, Filipinos, known as Manila men, were also recruited for naval operations off the coast of Vancouver Island. So therefore, while the exact names of the first Asian individuals were not recorded during that time, kasi parang, as at that time, alam naman natin, there was a time in history that Asian people were relegated as parang second, third class citizens, diba? So at that point, parang group lang silang dinadala dito to help out with certain things, pero hindi talaga
Documented,
hindi documented yung mga pangalan nila. So the first one we wanted to highlight is si Tito Ben. Oh, Tito Ben.
Tito Ben?
Si Tito Ben Flores. And then the other one we wanted to highlight, which is also mentioned as one of the reasons why Asian Heritage Month was set in May, was, ang pangalan niya ulit? Si
Manzo Nagano. From ano naman to? This is a Japanese immigrant to Canada, arriving in 1877 and helping shape early Japanese-Canadian history in British Columbia.
Yeah, so yun talaga ang unang tatlong groups of people, no? Chinese, Japanese, and si Tito Ben.
Talaga.
No, but I think that's actually very big for us Filipinos. Diba? Parang, we all know that Filipinos are everywhere. Diba?
Yeah.
Anywhere
in the world.
Totoo, anywhere in the world na kailangan ng warm and friendly and loving people, andun tayo.
Even if it's the coldest part of the world.
Absolutely. Or the hottest, diba? From Dubai to Alaska, or from China to Hong Kong to parts of the Middle East, and there are a lot of Filipinos everywhere. So we wanted to make sure to recognize
it's
that.
just a little recognition of the people talaga from a lot of Asian countries.
So yun. Na hindi lang pala kami bago. Si Tito Ben nauna na. Actually, there are people before him, except siya lang yung unang documented
Filipino.
in the Filipino. Okay, so Joe, what does being Filipino mean to you today?
Today?
Hindi, bukas na lang.
Today lang.
Today lang. Anong trip mo today?
What it means to be a Filipino? For me, kasi when you say Filipino, we're known for our hospitality, first of all.
Yes.
So I think that's a given to most Filipinos, and a lot of people describe us Filipinos as very warm, kind, gentle, very
Loud.
yes, loud. We love videoke.
We love to laugh.
We love to eat.
We love to eat.
Like you can't leave the house without eating.
True.
So we're hospitable like that. That's a
Yes.
given. That's really part of our culture. Like regardless, parang you will feel kind of embarrassed if you don't serve anything to your guests.
Yes, yes.
That's our culture, right? So I think for me, I kind of took that with me anywhere. Up until now. Especially because me growing up, we always have gatherings.
Oo nga, big family kasi kayo,
Yes, yes. So I have a lot of cousins, a lot of, aunts and uncles and all that. So when we're together, kahit simpleng lunchtime lang, we're always together. So, the sense of family, the sense of just the togetherness, that's really talagang rooted within me. Yun. That's what Filipino is to me.
Hospitality.
Hospitality and family.
Family. Tama.
How about you?
That's a wonderful question, candidate number 1. What does being Filipino mean to me today? I've been reflecting on this question and I really can't think of an answer. Other than, that's what we learned in school, diba? We learned that in school now. Traits of being a Filipino is that we're hospitable, diba? We're known all over the world because of that. Our warmth, our family values. which we share with a lot of Asian countries, diba? Yung family values. Pero hospitable, parang very tayo. What does it mean for me to be Filipino? I think for me, being Filipino is recognizing that I am a product of my ancestors. That I am who I am today because of the sacrifices that were made for me and sacrifices that were made before me. So sacrifices from my parents, by my grandparents, by their grandparents, by their parents, by their great-grandparents, you know? Like parang hanggang sa kaninu-ninunuan natin, di ba? We love saying that as Filipinos also. Parang for me, it's reflecting on recognizing na dala-dala ko lahat yun.
Yeah.
Hindi lang siya sa itsura ko dahil mukha talagang Pilipino, yung sa ilong ko, yung ganun. Pero dala mo yung like yung what you're saying, yung the warmth, the family values, the hospitality, being hospitable. Like, you know, on a granular level, you think of it as, oh, pinasa yun ng parents ko sa akin eh. Kasi ganun yung tita ko, ganun yung mom ko, ganun yung tatay ko. But before that, somebody did that for them. And then somebody did that to their parents.
It was passed on.
It was passed on, you know, like it became a cultural identity for us. So parang to me, reflecting on it, I can't think of other like specific examples, pero as I'm thinking of what it means for me to be Filipino, it's to carry that name, recognizing na the name carries history with it. You know, hindi lang siya,
true.
like Joe, like when we say Joe, di ba? We're both called Joe, and Joe's the name our parents gave us. May history yung pangalan. But everything that is associated with Joe, to an extent, is a product of my experiences, is a product of what I've done, choices I've made, you know, things that people have gifted for me, you know, blessings and encouragements and opportunities. But at the same time, everything that's encompassed in Joe, mostly ako, pero to carry the title na Filipino, parang it carries a heavier weight and a bigger, something bigger than myself, no? Na, yun.
Yeah, it's like carrying the whole country.
Yeah, and not just the country.
Because you know how people, you know, when they join, let's say, pageants or contests outside the country, outside the Philippines, let's say, they will always say, "Oh, I represent the Philippines."
Yes.
So it's kind of like, yeah, I'm proud to be Filipino and I represent the Philippines.
Yes, and I think I like that you brought that up because it's not just an internal thing, right? Like right now I'm reflecting on what it means to me, what it means for me to carry that title or that name, na, oh, I am Filipino. But there is that also, na the responsibility, na how people perceive me, na that name carries with it so much history. And I guess that's what we're hoping to unpack a little bit today. And honestly, that's the other thing. I think Filipinos recognize that actually. I think in general, Filipinos recognize that there's a certain level of attachment and community. Yung pinag-usapan natin last week.
Yeah.
Community with the idea of what it means to be Filipino. So I think for me, I want to take what you also said about being hospitable, family values, or the value of valuing family. And also community. Parang on top of that, we're really big communal people na, you know, wala kang makikitang Pilipino. Parang like sa amin sa work, I started my job, 2 years ago now. That's so long. 2 years ago, but when I started, it was the first job. In every other job actually, but this one more so. Ka-work ko kasi tita mo, di ba? So, yung tita mo, matagal na dun sa office. So, meron na silang community dun ng mga Pinoy. And parang first week ko pa lang, kasama ko na sila mag-lunch. You know, damay-damay.
They will always welcome you.
Yes, and it's a very inclusive kind of space na pag may gagawin, kasama lahat yung mga Pinoy.
Yeah.
Parang may group chat lagi yung mga Pinoy na, oh, may libreng kainan sa ganito or may event na ganito, pupunta kami.
It's like automatic.
Automatic, exactly. So it's not, we're not just hospitable, not just to our own families, but we extend that to a ano of community. So if you haven't listened to it yet, yung episode last week, community yan.
Yes. Medyo heavy lang yun, but yes. It's all about community.
So, all that to say, hindi na kasi tayo bata. Diba? Kahit
Ay!
na...
Ewan ko sa'yo.
I'm 16.
I'm 16 and a half.
Sabi sa'yo, matatanda ka sa akin eh.
And a half.
No, so like, diba, in our years, how has the idea of being Filipino, for you, how do you think it's changed over the years? From 16 to 16 and a half.
How did it change?
Or has it? Baka walang change.
I think for me, the only change was adapting into a new environment. Everything else stays the same because, I think the only change would be, of course, you have to adjust. Because you're in a different country. You have to adjust to the new culture, and new ways, all that, language, all those things. But everything else stays the same because it's still who you are as a Filipino or who you are growing up. It's ingrained na in you eh. You can not really change that, especially if it's such a good thing. Why would you change it?
Ay, gusto ko yun. No, it's not broken, don't,
If it's not broken, don't fix it.
Yes.
Right? It's okay to adapt, to adjust and all that, but to change who you really are, why? It's like, kinahiya mo ba na Filipino ka? Right? I'm not saying Filipinos are 100% perfect. Of course not. We still have like, those mga crab mentality and all those.
Part yun, diba?
Yeah. But if you can, put yourself away from that negative things, that would be better for you.
Totoo. Just for information lang sa ating mga listeners at ating community,
What?
Joe and I are living in Canada right now. Joe moved to Canada in her 20s. I moved to Canada in my late teens. So pareho kaming relatively adults na, I guess. Technically adults na tayo nun when we moved. So that's part of where she's coming from when she's explaining na nag-iba yung context. Kasi yun din that was what I was gonna say.
Yeah.
Na parang, for me, growing up in the Philippines, being Filipino meant a bit different. Parang it feels like the definition of being a Filipino was slightly different in how it felt. Because you're surrounded by other Filipinos.
Yeah.
It's like, oh, what does it mean to be Filipino? I have a Filipino passport. Like I'm a Filipino citizen.
I eat balot.
I mean, at that time, actually, I did. I do like balot. And it's it's like yung parang because you're living in it. It didn't feel as important as part of my identity.
Yes.
Growing up. But then, yun yung parang I felt what you said na nung nag-change yung context, nung nag-change yung surroundings, nung nag-change yung environment, moving to Canada, I was like, oh wait, I am not surrounded by not everyone's Filipino. I'm surrounded by other cultures, other peoples. I'm in a different country. I'm in a different city, different society even. So iba, feel ko dun yung nag-shift na parang mas nag-solidify siya kasi all of a sudden, you look different. Diba? Parang sa Pilipinas, you look like more or less like everybody else. And then you come over here and it's like, oh.
You're the minority.
I mean, depende sa city. Diba? You look different. Like you're not who you'll see on TV. Diba? Yung sa news channel, hindi mo kamukha yung mga reporters. Sa mga commercial, ang mga families dun sa commercial, hindi na mga Pinoy. everything's in English. Well, again, depending on the city. So yun, I think that was when it was solidified na. You're right. I don't think it changed. I think it solidified itself, is what I would say.
And I want to add something. I think some of the changes also was what's acceptable back in the Philippines are some things are not acceptable here.
Like pambubusina.
Honk! Or not even that. You know when we were kids, mga naglalaro yung mga kids and then they would tukso the
Like
other
tease,
kids. Yeah. They would tease the other kid and call them names.
Mhm. Tapos yung name sa'yo, may nickname mo na siya hanggang paglaki mo.
Yes. Di ba like it's so nakakahiya but
Dito hindi pwede yan, bullying
you
yun.
can't say that here. Alam mo na sa atin kapag maitim ka na tawag sa'yo, bawal sabihin dito yun. Di ba?
Oh my God.
Di ba? Kasi you'll be like, oh, you're ano ha? Bawal yan dito.
Actually, meron kaming friend. Bilang kayo manggi nga, ang tawag namin, ang adobo ang naging tawag sa kanya. Kasi nga kulay adobo. Pero eventually, hindi ko na sasabihin kung ano yung nickname niya ngayon. Pero yung nickname niya ngayon, nanggaling dun sa adobo, dinerive dun sa adobo. Tapos ngayon, we lovingly call her that. Like, it's a cute nickname now. She's accepted it. We all use it. Every now and then, magtatanong yung mga ibang tao or magtatanong yung parents, ganyan. Bakit nga pala ganun yung nickname ni ganito? Sabi, kailangan namin ikwento yung buong story. Tapos makita mo yung mukha ng mga kausap namin. Ha? I'm like, I swear we love her. Just like, hindi siya yung frenemy na parang binigyan mong nickname kasi tinutokso niyo.
It's an actual
Hindi
friend.
talaga. It's an actual friend. Shout out kay Adobo. Just like, no, but you're right. Like, I think there are certain cultural things na obviously, we're not saying that bullying does not exist in the Philippines. You know, we're not saying na we condone it or we allow for all of that to happen. But I think there's a certain level of playfulness that we're able to hold on to as Filipinos, especially growing up. Na there are a lot of things we don't take seriously. Now we can laugh about it.
You know what? In my generation, everything was accepted. I don't know about these days.
Ibang topic yan, pang-ibang episode.
But like really, it's so funny when you think of it. Like, oh my gosh, really? That's not allowed here? Back home, we call each other like these names and we just laugh about it.
Exactly. And I think it's so true because I was watching this other podcast. Watching kasi diba ang podcast nga sa YouTube na din. And parang that's what they were saying na iba yung growing up, being able to laugh at things, laugh at yourself, laugh with other people, na hindi ka madaling ma-offend kasi I guess the base understanding is that there's no ill intent.
Yeah.
Parang you understand that you're all being playful, that you're all actually having fun. You know, obviously there are lines that you don't want to cross. Now you can tell naman especially even as kids, you know, kids are actually a lot more emotionally sensitive to things than we adults might even not recognize or might want to say. But the kids, they can tell naman when something doesn't feel good. You know, na parang ma-recognize din naman nila pag yung pangangansyaw, iba na yung dating. And then as adults taking care of them, we can also tell na parang there are lines. Pero in general, because we understand that everything is in the spirit of play, it's in the spirit of actual camaraderie, it's in the spirit of actually having fun with one another, and fun with each other, nicknames like adobo persist over decades, you know? Literal decades. Yun pa din tawag namin sa kanya.
What's another thing?
Oh.
Kasi back then, kids actually play with each other.
Totoo.
Like, physically play with each other. Like, pagdating ng 4 p.m., lahat ng kids nasa labas na ng bahay. They're playing. Now now you can't see the kids outside because they're all on their computers, their phones, their tablets.
They're playing with each other naman online.
Online, but kaya maraming weird kids these days. And I thought I was weird.
I mean...
Well, I am. I'm not gonna lie. I'm not gonna deny.
Totoo. So yun yung... Ano pinag-usapan natin? What was the idea of being Filipino changed over the years? Yun yung... the context changed, and so that's what we were talking about.
Yeah.
Even what was it like growing up? And then so we had to... You're right. We had to adapt to it. We had to gauge a bit more. But even at work, as we're making friends at work, what are some jokes that are appropriate? What are some jokes na with Filipino friends, they'd accept it, they'd get it, they won't feel offended. But when you have mixed cultures in a friend group or mixed cultures
it's easy
in a
to
gathering,
get misunderstood.
Yeah, you need to be more mindful about how easy it is to get misunderstood. And I think that's why I like also the fact that countries like Canada highlight things such as Asian Heritage Month to emphasize na we want to emphasize that there's a diversity and there's a whole plethora of all these different cultures that we want to be respectful of. And we also want to celebrate. I think that's the thing.
And it's not just about Filipinos, ha?
Yes.
There's a whole bunch of other cultures that we do recognize in Canada. It's super diverse ang Canada.
Totoo. Kaya ang tawag multiculturalism ang image where it's a mosaic. The idea is, ang pagkaturo sa akin nun before, hindi ko alam sino nagturo. I think it's one of my classes before, parang Canadian Society, whatever. I don't remember the title of the course. Pero parang they were comparing it, parang Canada and the US. In the US, there's also an influx of a lot of immigrants. Right? They also have people from all over the world. But the US is a melting pot. You know, if you think of sabaw, diba? If you think of a stew that's been boiling for a while, at some point, sa dinami ng ingredients na nilagay mo doon, everything gets mushed together, everything gets boiled together. It affects the taste. You know, the final product of the soup is a product of every ingredient that you put in. But there comes a point that you can't recognize the different ingredients inside because they all look the same na, di ba? They all taste the same na. The texture is all similar. Na ang sabi nung parang prof ko nun, the difference with the diversity in the States and in Canada is that in the States there's that melting pot. So everything comes together. In Canada, everything still comes together, but it's a mosaic. So if you think about it, still paints a picture. If you zoom out, you see the full picture. But then you zoom in and you see the different pixels that make up the bigger image. And those pictures maintain parang the integrity of
each culture.
Yeah. And I really like that. And I do see that.
That's
in
beautiful,
Canada.
actually. Kasi, you know, you can still distinguish each culture as it is.
Yes.
But if you look at the bigger picture, you can see them as one whole thing.
Yes.
That's nice.
I mean, you know, things have changed a little bit since I took that class. You know, the world has been changing a little bit. And I do hope that people in Canada still recognize that that's the goal of a mosaic where we celebrate.
I think so. We do celebrate a lot of different cultures here.
Totoo naman. Totoo.
Like, we do respect each culture here in Canada. And, you know, wala namang pumipigil sa kanila to celebrate. So, let them celebrate. Because that's really their heritage. Right? That's their history.
Totoo. And so on that note, what was it like settling into Canada as a Filipino?
Well, I was sent here as an exile. Just kidding.
Pinalayas po siya, mga madlang people.
Wala akong choice.
Sabi ng mother niya, doon ka na sa tita mo.
Masyado kang pasaway. Malis ka na. Hindi naman. No, not really.
Not really, pero medyo.
Kind of. But I like, at that time you don't really think about anything but yourself. You're young and selfish. You just want everything to yourself, right? You don't look forward for anything kasi parang, you're stopping. I'm happy here. Why are you putting me somewhere else?
Tama.
Diba? But, now you're here, makikita mo na yung difference eh. Like, okay, now I get it. But, okay, before I came here, I kind of prepared myself na, psyched myself na, there's gonna be a lot of changes on my part, personally, for sure. I was kind of half ready and half not. Kasi parang, what changes would I do when I get there? That's your mentality eh. Like, I knew that I was gonna go here. So, I'm like, okay, so what's next? So, yeah, I kind of prepared myself. And the hardest part is always, leaving people behind.
Ay! Next na! Next question. Totoo.
That's the hardest part.
I think kasi, I feel that. Kasi, when we came over, we're already adults, but like what we were saying.
Like, we already established our
Circles in the
circle,
Philippines. Yeah, we have, we've gone through the process of growing up with our friends, building those communities, building those relationships na, that are very special relationships na took time to build. The relationships where you feel very seen, cared for, and then, at that point, there was that feeling na, I'm reflecting a little bit of what you're saying in some of my experiences too na, at that point, when I moved over then, parang, you were all going through the same things, tas all of a sudden, hindi na. Na parang you were in school together, then you went to college together, university, ganyan.
It's like you have to stop your life.
Yeah.
And start over.
Tapos yung feeling nun na sila hindi nag-stop.
Yeah.
Ikaw patuloy ikaw yung nalihis, ikaw yung nag-detour. Kasi you were all on the same path, di ba? Parang sabay-sabay kayo na schooling, tapos nag-graduate, starting your career, tapos the next steps. Tapos parang ikaw biglang, whoop, I'm going to another country.
Well, you know what? It's not just hard to leave people behind, but it's only hard to meet new people.
Yes, especially because we came over as adults.
Yeah.
Adult friendships are very difficult. I was a bit luckier, blessed. I was blessed in that area because I came over a little younger, diba? So when I came over, ganun din, inis din ako sa parents ko. Kasi, but I worked hard to get into a really good school for my university in the Philippines. Yun na yun. So I worked really hard to get in. Tapos, sabi ng parents ko, we're moving na. Buong pamilya kami sabay-sabay mag-move. I'm like, huh? So there's all of that, all the emotions that you described and all of those preparations that you described. Pero ang sa akin, ang naging parang blessing, kasi pagdating ko dito, I had to go back to school. Mas madaling mag-make ng friends sa school, di ba? Kasi you have the same schedule, you take the same classes, you talk about the same exams, the same homeworks. So I was able to build a bit of a community there. I can only imagine what it would have been like if I came over as a working adult and then having to and basically be in a world where you don't have community. Because I felt a little bit of that even in university. Di ba, syempre, I go to university, I've met some of my friends who are born and raised in Canada. So, when we talk about going out, when we talk about activities on the weekends or over the breaks, may mga kasama sila. Kasi meron silang mga friends dito, barkada nila nung high school, childhood friends nila, or mga kapitbahay nila. And I'm like, wala. I'm like...
I know, it's sad, no?
Yeah, the other thing that was a blessing for me was the church.
Yeah.
So when we came over, kasi
They're very active.
my parents were very active in church, and then also yung pastor nung church dito na pinuntahan namin was previously a pastor in our church din sa Philippines. So we already had
So you
connection
knew
with them. Yeah, so pagdating dito, parang at least there was somebody that welcomed us into the church. Because even churches, diba? As much as, and this is a different topic for another time, as much as churches are supposed to be welcoming, not all churches are, and also
True.
churches are made up of people. People tend to also be, like I'm guilty of this too, diba? Parang I'd prefer to be with my own group, diba? Parang when I'm at church, I'm with my friends, I'm with the people that I talk to. So it was such a blessing that we knew the pastor. So when we came to church, he was able to introduce us to some people. So we got welcomed into certain groups, Bible study, ganyan, mga young adults group, youth group, mga ganon. So doon naman nag-build. But other than that, especially now that I'm getting older, I feel that also yung difficulty of building friendships, which made leaving the friends that we had so much harder. Ay.
O, diba? May hugot.
Ano ba? Pag-uusapan natin yung Filipino, bakit naging friendships? Ano ba yon? Pero totoo. Like the question was, what was it like moving over? And I think it's very telling that the first things we talked about were the relationships. We didn't even talk about what was the culture like, what was earning money like, what was the weather like.
Yeah.
No, it was the people.
It was the people. That's the most important part there. And then you're forced to grow up. Ay, adulting.
Forced to grow up. Ayoko na.
Ibang topic na yung adulting. Sa susunod
Adulting.
na yun.
Actually, magandang topic yan.
Yes. But yes, mahirap din yun. Because now you're in charge of yourself. Of everything. It's so hard. It's so hard. Even after now, it's so hard. But, we get by, thank God.
We get by, totoo. And thank our communities also, and our families. These are the times when I'm very thankful for what it means to be Filipino. To just have that.
Even just the emotional support.
Yes. Tsaka iba kasi yung, as much as we have a good command of the English language, a lot of people tend to forget and tend to not know, for some of them, that English is the medium of instruction in the Philippines. Like we only have 1-2 subjects that are actually taught in Tagalog and Filipino. Everything else is taught in English. Our math is taught in English.
Yes.
We have English, we have reading. Our history is taught in English. Unless hekasi, diba? But for the most part, everything's in English. So we have a good command of the language, and we can adapt to the language. Filipinos are amazing at learning languages. Like if you remember the craze of Meteor Garden way back when, ang daming mga Pilipinong marunong kumanta ng Chinese. Hindi na naintindihan, pero
Ngayon,
mapakinggan mo.
K-pop.
Ngayon, K-pop. At ang K-pop, mas madali pa for Filipinos now. Because Mandarin is a lot harder to learn because you need to recognize the characters. Whereas with Korean, from my understanding, is that it's kind of phonetic. Like the symbols are different letters. So you put the letters together. The words are actually a collection of letters. So if you understand the letters, understand how to put together, you can read them. So a lot of Filipinos that can read and write in Korean can sing well in Korean. And you're like, do you understand? Hindi. Just like, pero yung accent nila, ang ganda.
It just sounds nice.
So I'm like, where I was going with that was like, as Filipinos, we're very good with languages, and I am very comfortable speaking in English and expressing myself in English. Pero iba yung comfort na makapag-Tagalog ka kahit sa work.
True.
Like having Filipinos in the office. My manager's Filipino. Shout out sa iyo dyan. Tas ang dami kong tita-tita sa work, mga tita, mga tito sa work. It's just so different to be able to go and be like,
Express yourself in your own language. Yes.
yes, na, tita, Yun, basta yun.
You just get it.
Yeah, and then I
You
was
just
like,
get it.
even with the exasperated tita, yung iba, they're like, they get it. And then, there's that level of, it feels like it's a part of myself that gets to breathe and gets to show itself. That doesn't always get to do that when I'm expressing myself in English. Like, I don't think I'm somebody else when I'm expressing myself in English, but I feel like it's a different part of me, and then being able to express myself in Filipino kind of completes that part with another.
And let's
aspect.
admit it. There are Filipino jokes that
You cannot translate.
yes. So
Aray.
don't
Excuse
choke
me
on
po.
yourself now.
Excuse me po. Sige ga, explain mo yun sa co-workers mong di nagtatagalog.
What? Like me, I laugh at my own joke before I say anything. It's already in my head, but it's so hard to express it in English. If iba yung dating kapag Filipino pag Tagalog. So funny.
Or like, we've had these moments at work kasi diba we'd spend time having lunch together. Kasi diba very Filipino, very community-oriented nga tayo. So ang lunch doon, laging hati-hati. Yung ang baon mo naman talaga sa'yo lang. Pero pagkainit ng pagkain, nandun na siya sa gitna.
Ginagawang buffet.
Ginagawang buffet! Sige, gusto, ang dami mong ulam, ang daming kung ano-ano. So there are moments na parang magtatawanan kami sa work, di ba? Kasi syempre somebody said something funny. Eh may kasama kaming mga hindi Filipino, like may coworker sa finance department namin sa office that sometimes sits with us kasi doon kami sa may area sa may finance department ng office namin kumakain. Korean siya. Well, Korean-Canadian. So obviously, she doesn't understand a lick of Filipino. Minsan magtatawanan kami, tapos kailangan namin explain sa kanya. Tapos pagka-explain mo, hindi na siya nakakatawa.
It's not the same. It's
not funny. Pero napansin namin. And this is part of how contagious the hospitality and the warmth of Filipinos tend to be, is that after a couple of months of just doing that, I say a couple of months, she's been there longer than me, but a couple of months that I've observed, because I've only, a couple of months since I started having lunch with the titas at work and then some of the people from finance. Napansin ko minsan hihirit yung isang tita, tapos magtatawanan ko, tatawa din siya. Sabi nung tita sa kanya, did you understand that? Sabi niya, no, but I'm starting to pick up on when it's funny. Like parang napansin na niya na iba yung
The sound.
The sounds.
Yeah.
Iba yung inflection, iba yung
intonation.
emphasis. Iba yung intonation. When it's funny, when it's a joke. And this Korean coworker of ours, this Korean-Canadian coworker of ours, have also started to understand na minsan sarcastic si tita. Na yung sarcasm in Filipino na natranslate, she's starting to pick up on it. And I think, now that I'm thinking about, Asian Heritage Month, it's such a beautiful picture of what it means to be sharing the table with other people. Na she doesn't understand our language. She still doesn't understand Filipino. And we don't speak in Korean. So for the most part, our only common language is English. But there are things that she's now picked up on and understood. And there are things that we've learned about her and her culture and her growing up in Canada that we only got to experience and got to learn because we spent time with her. And we spent those times laughing together, expressing to her. Kasi ang nangyayari doon, ang nangyayari usually, parang after mag-explain, magtatawanan, ganyan-ganyan. Pagka-explain namin sa kanya, usually she'll try to convey that she understands.
Yeah.
And how she conveys that she understands, she would usually say something na, oh yeah, parang there's something similar. I remember growing up, there's this TV show that I watched, or, oh yeah, my mother says that too. Like my Korean mother says that a lot, And they were like, same din pala. Oo, may ganun din pala kayo. Yun. Napaka-welcoming talaga yung mga Pilipino. Parang feel ko sa office, baka sa akin lang. Parang pinaka-welcoming yung mga Filipino.
Part nga ng hospitality natin.
Totoo. That's really how we're known. Kaya alam ng mga boss namin sa office. Kasi dinig nila yung tawanan. Kahit sarado na yung pinto. Alam nilang nagtatawanan
We're loud
kami.
like that, though.
Yes. Alam nilang nagkakainan na kami. Alam nilang lunchtime na. Pag narinig na nilang humalakak yung mga Filipino. Every now and then, we get in trouble for, like, not trouble, but this is one of those things na, di ba we were talking about kanina, not all our characteristics are amazing and loving and lovable. Some people find it annoying. And, I get it. Like, we're in the office. Granted, we're in the lunch area, but it's still the office. Like, there are other
I get
offices
that.
next door. Na I could assume if I was the one that's still working through lunch, and there are people laughing, I might be, also a little bit annoyed.
Just tell them, not everything is about you.
Exactly.
Either you laugh with us or ignore us.
Parang laging may binyagan, parang laging may piyesta.
Same in any workplace.
Yes. Parang never akong nagutom sa lahat ng workplace ko pag may mga kasama akong Pilipino. Kasi
Ang sarap
laging...
kayo kumain ng may kasabay.
Yes, that's the other thing too.
You eat together. So, ano pa? Ano pa ang ating question and answer portion?
Ito gusto kong... What parts of Filipino culture do you carry with you most prominently? We talked about a lot of different things. Pero parang in your day-to-day, what aspect of being Filipino, what aspect of the Filipino culture parang you feel like you carry with you every day?
I would say, okay, me being me.
World beast.
Me being me. Hindi kasi ako showy eh. But I think the one thing really for me is yung close family ties. Yun talaga. Regardless of wherever I am. Especially now, like, sometimes I realize it. For me, personally, me and my family are all scattered around the world.
Totoo.
My immediate family to, ha? So, my siblings, my mom. We're not even in this... me and my sister are in the same country, but we're not in the same province. Alam mo yun, yung parang... We do talk every day, almost. But, it's still different when you're with them, eh.
Yes.
Yun nakakamiss. So, the closest you can do or the closest you can get is just to talk to them all the time if you can. That's the least you can do to, quote-unquote, spend time with them. Yun talaga for me.
Gusto ko yun.
I think when you get a little older, maybe 17.
Or pag, legal age ka na, mga 19.
Pag you tend to realize a lot of things about what really matters to you.
Yes.
Kasi before, when you're younger, you don't really care. You only care about your friends. Like, you don't care about your family because you always think like, or your family are the burden, ganyan. Tinik sa lalamunan mo.
Wow. Lalamunan talaga. Uy, may hugot.
or yung they stop you from doing what you want to do.
Sila talagang kontrabida sa buhay.
Yes. But actually, no. It's because they care about you.
Yes.
Yan na, kids, makinig kayo. Kids. No, but really, yan sa akin. How about you?
Sa akin, it's yung understanding natin of respect. Parang the fact na in the Filipino language, we have the expressions po and opo.
Oh yeah, I'm starting to teach nga my niece.
Diba? Na walang ganun sa English eh. Diba?
No.
As your niece is growing up in Canada, iba yung kailangan pa rin ano ba yung po, ano ba yung opo? These are things that we add to the end of our sentences, or within our sentences
To show respect.
To show respect. And I was talking to somebody recently na obviously this isn't a general thing, right? Like, not everybody observes it. But there's a certain level of recognition for Filipinos of the value of respecting other people, especially when it comes to work, hierarchy, um, or in everyday life, we respect our elders,
Our elders and those in authority.
those in authority. We respect generationally, even when it's not. Kahit na technically hindi sila older, like, di ba meron ngayong mga families na because of how big the families are or some other things that happen within the family na yung tito mo kaedad mo, di ba?
Yes.
Or yung tita mo parang mas bata sa'yo. Pero we respect them as a generation older or above us, ganon. And I feel like I carry that with me. I think I can't erase that fully. Like, for example, in Canada, for those of you who might not know, they're not very big on honorifics. Like, for example, in Canadian churches, they're generally not big on honorifics. You don't really call people like Pastor or something, Pastor Smith, Pastor John, Pastor so and so. Usually you just go to, hey John, like, hey Joe, ganon.
First name basis.
First name basis. Kasi part yun ng, parang for them, it's they want to be part of the congregation, which is true. Like, I like that. Di ba parang yung, we're all equal, friends, ganon. Hindi ko kayang tawagin yung...
Oh my gosh, I get that.
Di ba? Yung senior pastor natin, hindi ko kayang tawagin siya ng first name niya.
Yeah.
Kailangan
I get
pastor
that.
something lagi. And something like that. And I think this is something I can't erase and it's something from my understanding, is also not just a Filipino thing. Like, it's a very Asian thing, and to me personally, sometimes it's a detriment, where sometimes I value the hierarchy too much when I really shouldn't. And it's that. And I think that to me is the aspect of a Filipino culture that I hold on to, that I carry with me every day. And it's both the good and the bad. The good, I recognize that I don't, thankfully, by God's grace, I don't tend to have a lot of faux pas where I step on people's toes. Kasi maingat ako pagpasok ko ng room. When I talk to people, I am cognizant of, ito si ganito manager yan. Ito supervisor
You're aware.
yan. Ito team lead siya. Ito director. Like, I'm aware of where people are. So then I don't accidentally disrespect people. On the flip side of that, I am too aware that sometimes it makes it difficult to actually build genuine connections. And like, this is not a super work setting. You're not supposed to be like, you're not obeying orders or whatever. You're having casual discussions over the water cooler. But I can't shake off na, hindi, director ganito yan eh. So yun yung parang both ends for me na. There's a good bit that I recognize it. I'm very aware. The bad bit is that sometimes I'm hyper aware and I can't shake it off. And then I get in my own head and then I overthink and then everything's just a mess. So yun, that's one that I
get that.
carry.
When I first moved here, I don't know what to call people.
Tapos di ba sobrang weird kasi makita mo mga friends mo, ang tawag nila sa parents nila first name.
And parang,
Sabi ko, ha?
you're so disrespectful.
Nag-away ba kayo? Sabi nila, what? What do you mean? Just like, what do you mean?
Especially if it's older. Like,
Yes.
Can I call this person tita or something, auntie or
Yeah.
whatever? But just to call them by their first name, weird. Ang weird lang.
Yeah, and then the thing is, in the Philippines, diba, we'd add tita, we'd add auntie, we'd add uncle. Dito sa kanila, weird yun. Kasi
Yes.
para sa kanila, hindi tayo related, but mo tinatawag na uncle? In my head, I'm like, kasi mas matanda ka sa akin.
Yeah.
Hindi kita pwedeng tawagin George. I'm like, no, like you're
But
older.
then over time, you get to know.
Over time, totoo. I'm just like, you get a level of familiarity kasi, and also just adapting to the culture. And I think that's what you were saying, di ba, kanina? Parang circling back to what we were talking about kanina. Na we adopt to it. So like, we don't remove the respect. So when I talk to, let's say George, for example, when I talk to George, let's say George is a pastor, or George is an older gentleman, or George is a director or a manager at work or a professor, at school, I still, as a Filipino, hold on in my head that I know that this person is above me. I respect them because they're older, they have a different position. But I adapt to the language or adapt to the language. So I call him George. But the conversation isn't the same as I'm talking to you. I call you both by your first names because I've adapted to what it's like in Canada. But I still maintain the level of, I will not be teasing George about his tie. But I might be commenting on his lecture, or I might be commenting on something that he said in a meeting, and then, do a bit of banter there. Pero hindi ko siya aasarin na, oh my gosh, ang puti na ng buhok mo, kailangan ba magre-retire? Yung ganon na pwede mo gawin sa tito mo, pero hindi pwede kay George kasi puti siya at hindi niya ma-appreciate yun. Baka sabihin nilalait mo yung edad niya.
Yes. Ayaw nila ng ganun.
Ayaw nilang ganon.
Oh.
Ano na? So as we wrap up our episode, we want all of you to be reflecting. We know that because of the age of the internet and how podcasts and social media kind of work, we understand that this could be listened to by people in the Philippines or people in different parts of the world that chances are generally Filipino because we're talking in, Taglish. So we want to invite you during this month, whether or not you're in a country or in a place that celebrates Asian Heritage Month or AAPI Heritage Month, to reflect on what it means for you to be Filipino, to reflect on what it means to you to be in a space with other cultures. Even if, say, you're living in the Philippines, as you're listening to this, and you're like, anong other cultures Filipino ko? I'm like, baka may katrabakong Ilocana, may katrabakong Ilongga, or Pampangueño. Iba din ang may specific culture din sila, cultural differences.
Yes.
That you can learn from, that is actually very rich. That's part of the beauty of what it means to be Filipino, and that we all fall under this umbrella and we're all Filipinos. Pero pagdating ng, if all the Filipinos are together, may maririnig ka na, hindi, ganyan talaga kasi kami, kasi mga Ilongga kami. And I'm like, I can see it. So we want to invite you. We'd love to hear of your own reflections, what being Filipino means to you, whether you're in a diaspora, born and raised, or reconnecting with your roots, DM us, message us, comment us, we have Instagram, Facebook, Spotify, we have
email.
We want to hear from you, or tag us if you post a story or if you share anything. Let's keep the conversation going. And again, we want to highlight ulit, we're also posting some of the links to resources if you're in Canada or specifically in Vancouver and were directly or indirectly affected by the events that happened a couple weeks ago at the Lapu-Lapu Day Festival. We have some online resources that we'd love to share, and also we'll be sharing some of the links for some of the GoFundMe campaigns for some of the families and friends of the people who were affected by the tragedy.
Yes. And before we go, I just want to say,
Ayan na.
hugot na.
Matapos na. Hugot ka pa.
No, I just want to say, wherever you end up in the world, whether to another barangay, another province, another country, wherever, don't forget to always look back where you came from.
Yes.
And, carry all the good things with you. Diba sabi nga nila, parang, ano yun yung kung hindi ka marunong tumingin sa pinanggalingan.
Yun nga yung
So you always have to look back where you came from, or otherwise you wouldn't get to where you're going.
Sabi ni Google, that was a quote by Dr. Jose Rizal.
Yes.
Ang hindi marunong lumingon sa pinanggalingan ay hindi makakarating sa paroroonan.
So if you don't know how to look back to where you came from, you will never get to where you're going.
Yes.
You always have to honor yung history natin, culture, our heritage. And know that kung ano man yung contribution natin to where we are right now, it's an important part of the community as it is.
Yes.
Because that's how we enrich yung culture din ng iba, and we respect the culture of the other people. So pag nagsama-sama siya, like what you said earlier, yung mosaic ba? You keep true to yourself, to your where you came
Who
from,
you are.
who you are, your heritage, your history. But if you look at the big picture, it's more beautiful kung if they're all combined together, if they work well together. Oh, really? Yes! Huga!
Ang ganda. Ayun na.
Okay! So thank you everybody for joining us for today until our next episode.
Again, this is Joe.
And Joe, thank you for listening to Title the Podcast. Bye everyone!
Bye